Yep. There we go. All right. Oh, am I live? Yes, I am live. Welcome, guys. Sorry, adjusting my camera. Oh, okay, Google, turn off the TV. So I'm watching one of my shows here. Not that it's not a great show. All right, there we go. Welcome, guys. I'm hoping you can hear. Everybody can hear me, yes? Since Discord is not responding. YouTube, you can hear. Okay, Discord's responding. There we go. I was afraid my sound wasn't working today. Oops, turn off my thingy there. All right. Let me get. Oh, okay, Google, turn off the television. Sometimes Google, you have to ask twice. All right, go live on TikTok, and then we are good. All right, good. So that's working for you guys. All right, TikTok, switch video. All right, we are set now. Excellent. Move my tape a little. There we go. Excellent. All right, welcome everybody. How are we all doing this evening? There we go. TikTokers are joining us too. There we go. Hello, TikTokers, YouTubers, Discordians, everybody. Good evening. Trying to get my camera. That's all right. All right, good enough. Good enough. My camera's further back today. Maybe I'll move forward. I don't know. I think it's okay. Anyway, all right, welcome, guys. I am John Aravosis. Hello, all. As always, I'm trying my extra monitor thing today, which is keeping it interesting because now I've got my YouTube in front of me on my laptop. I've got Discord on my little side monitor, and then TikTok, you're over here on the right. So that should work pretty well. Hello, who is in Slovakia? David in Slovakia. Hello. Anyway, welcome, guys. I'm John Aravosis. This is Friday. Happy weekend, all. This is just a quick reminder, the way things work here. Our weekend show, I do a special, thank you for the gifts already coming in, guys. I do a special show on the weekend for the paid monthly subscribers. Saturday is the show for everybody. So Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, US. I will be on TikTok, Discord, and YouTube. Sunday, thank you, all the hearts there on TikTok. Sunday, I do the VIP member show. That's people who are the $25 and up contributors, or $24.99 and up contributors. So you guys join us on Sunday as well. Dieter? Oh, I can't even, what is your name? Deters Guda Hamder Ik? Somebody from Denmark has got a very bizarre screen name. Anyway, good to see you, Denmark. Sorry, our president's an idiot. What do we do? But we love you anyway. So that's tomorrow morning. Otherwise, and then Sunday morning for the rest. Thank you, Jane Rice, for subscribing. So the way the show works is we talk about the latest news from Trump land here in Washington, D.C. We also talk about the latest news from Ukraine. I am a longtime political expert, I guess, from Washington, D.C. And thank you for the cake. Who was that? McFadge for the cake. Thank you. But I'm a longtime political guy in Washington, D.C. And a while ago decided to start this show about 3 years ago now, actually covering the war in Ukraine. But with all the Trump news and everything else, there's obviously a lot of other news going on here in the U.S. So I've been covering that as well, the Trump news and the Ukraine news. So where do we start? We'll start with Trump news. So Trump is, I'm so tired with this stuff. He's already got me exhausted. And this is what Trump does. I mean, Trump basically, this is what he did last time too when he was president. He just exhausts you with all the scandal and tries to make it so that, you can't even fight back because you're so tired. Trump threatened new tariffs against Canada today, and India as well. Thank you for the motorbike. Who was that? Jane Rice. Thank you, Jane. That's a very nice gift. Trump threatened new tariffs against India today and against Canada. The Canada stuff is just, it's so exhausting. A couple days ago, Trump, okay, let's step back. A month ago, Trump says, we're going to have massive sanctions or tariffs on Canada starting Tuesday. Tuesday comes and Trump caves. No tariffs. But in a month, he's going to have the tariffs and they're going to be huge. A month passes, Trump implements the tariffs. 24 hours later, freaks out and rescinds most of the tariffs. And now most of the tariffs have been delayed for a month. Interestingly, some of the tariffs he did not get rid of. He did not get rid of the tariffs covering potash, which is interesting because that is a key component for fertilizer here in the US for our farmers, and Trump just guaranteed with his tariff that the prices are going to go up for our farmers. They're not going to like that. In any case, most of the tariffs, Trump yesterday backed off and caved and said, okay, we're not going to do them. We'll do them in a month. So once again, we're back to this month thing. Well, today Trump turned around and said, but now I'm going to do more tariffs against Canada. And this time, do I have them in front of me? Canadian lumber and dairy. So this is kind of cute. Let me remind folks again what a tariff is. A tariff is a tax. It is a tax paid by consumers or businesses here in America. Thank you, Norway, for the feather mask. It is not paid by foreigners. It is not paid by foreign governments. Trump has lied about this since his first presidency. He keeps saying that, China's going to pay or Mexico's going to pay or Canada's going to pay. That's not the way tariffs work. Tariffs are quite literally, you go to buy avocados from your local grocery store. There's a very good chance, a 90% chance, that those avocados come from Mexico. You do not actually buy them from Mexico. You go to your local grocery store. Now, it is possible your local grocery store gets them from Mexico. It's also possible your local grocery store gets them from some kind of middleman, some kind of wholesaler, which would be an American company that imports avocados from Mexico and then sells them to supermarkets across America, okay? What happens when you put a 25% tariff on avocados from Mexico? That means that whoever is buying the avocados from Mexico, whether it's your supermarket buying them directly from Mexico, or whether it is the wholesaler, the company in the American company that buys the avocados, brings them in, and then resells them to supermarkets. Whoever buys the avocados from Mexico, whether it's the American supermarket chain or the American wholesaler, now has to pay 25% more for those avocados. It literally is a tax by the US government. When those products cross the border, the US government says, American company, you need to pay me 25% of the value of those avocados as a tax to the American government. And if you don't, you can't bring them in. So what happens is the American company has instant inflation of 25% on avocados. They then have to decide, do we just eat the cost or do we pass it along to consumers in terms of higher prices for avocados? Well, most groceries, and I didn't even know this, I learned this the other day, most groceries have about a 2 to 3% margin of profit margin, meaning, if they sell $100 worth of groceries, the supermarket makes $2 or whatever, right? It's not like a ton. They can't afford to lose 25% on avocados. So typically they pass the price along to American consumers. What that means is tariffs are a tax on goods coming into America, and they are paid by Americans as inflation, basically. Now, whether that inflation hits American consumers or whether it hits American companies who then pass it to consumers, it depends how the sale happens. Either way, it is a tax paid by Americans, period. And it's bad and it's inflationary. So in any case, so Trump now came up with new taxes, new tariffs he's going to put on Canada, possibly as early as immediately. Again, all this stuff is just pulled from, he's pulling it out of a hat here, guys. He's now saying he's going to go after Canadian lumber and dairy products. Now, Canadian lumber is a problem because he's going to increase the price of housing in America, building your house and building apartment buildings, renting apartment buildings, buying houses. That's not great. Dairy, I have no idea sort of how dairy works as far as with American consumers, but the Canadians have already threatened. I'm kind of enjoying this, actually. This Ford guy, is it Doug Ford, I think is his name, the premier of Ontario? Hopefully I'm correct. I don't want to insult our Canadian friends. But he's the governor, we would say, in America, right? I'll call him a governor. I mean, he's not a governor. He's a premier. But it gets confusing because for Americans, when you say premier, you think of the head of the country. He's the head of a region, basically like a governor. And his region sells like electricity to 1.5 million Americans. It's British Ontario. Okay. He sells it to 1.5 million Americans get their electricity from Ontario. He said he's going to put a tax. What was he going to cut it off? Or what was he saying, Arctic? Was he saying a 250% tax? Was that the amount? It was something crazy, or 25% and then going up to 50%. Something like that, right? What was it going to be? 25%, I think, going up to 50% in a few weeks if Trump doesn't change it. I was asking Arctic Legacy about this, who's Canadian, and he was saying that so far they're not pulling off of this, that the premier is actually planning on going ahead with this. I hope he does. I've said before, the only way Trump is going to the only way Trump is going to back off and stop attacking all of your governments is if you stand up to him first and make him feel the pain. You need to make American consumers feel the pain. Canadians need to teach Americans that you're not a state. You're not innocent. You're not weak. You're not, vulnerable to America, and that you can cause not as much pain, but you can cause significant pain to us that we can then basically we have to then play, as Trump likes to say, you've got some cards too. So then we have to play cards with you because you've got a way of punishing our voters as well. It really boggles my mind. I was actually, as an aside, I saw somebody mentioning voting for Hillary or whatever. This kind of made me laugh. There's a video I was watching today, a local news report of a Latino guy here in America. He's American, clearly an immigrant though. Most likely an immigrant. He had a Spanish accent, Latino accent, but I mean, an immigrant, native Spanish speaker. So probably an immigrant here. He's an American citizen now, and he gets pulled over by Trump's immigration people on the road because they see him driving while Latino, pull him over, and they start demanding his documents. And he's like, my documents? I'm an American citizen. What are you talking about? They wouldn't believe him. They started laughing and turning to each other and going, yeah, he's an American. The guy was an American. It's even better than that. He was a Trump voter. He was an immigrant to the U.S., it appears, a Latino immigrant, Latin American immigrant who voted for Trump, and the Trump people racially profiled him and Trump's immigration people started mocking him for being Latino, saying there's no way you're American because, God forbid, right? I sort of see stuff like that exactly. And I feel like, you know what? F around, find out, as they say. What do you do? Anyway, little more news here. This was interesting too. We found out today, Elon Musk tried to fire air traffic controllers. So this is an interesting story. We heard a few weeks ago that, remember the big scandal a few weeks ago? Well, lots of scandals every day here, right? But Trump, or basically Elon's people, fired a bunch of people at the FAA, a bunch of employees at our Federal Aviation Administration, our agency that deals with planes and overseeing air traffic in America, right? And they fired like 300, I think it was 300, but it was air traffic control employees they fired. They didn't fire air traffic controllers, the people who are in the towers telling planes where to go, but they did fire air traffic control employees. And that was bad enough because we have a shortage of certainly air traffic controllers themselves. We have a shortage in America. We've had a whole series of plane crashes in the last 2 months, near misses, horrible stuff. And we found out today in the New York Times, Elon Musk tried to actually fire air traffic controllers. And the story's worse than that. So yesterday in the Oval Office, and by the way, keep the gifts coming, guys. I always forget to make the gift pitch, but your gifts pay my bills. I do this full time, so please keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else. But yesterday they have a meeting in the Oval Office, and Trump is meeting with his cabinet. And they had that little back and forth with Elon Musk and Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State, yelling at each other because Musk was being a jerk to Rubio and saying, you're not cutting enough. And Rubio had finally had it. Well, one of the other secretaries who had it with Elon Musk was Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, which is kind of surprising because he seems like he's another Fox News lightweight that Trump hired just because he's on Fox News. And Duffy, thank you, Paulius. Thank you, Marsha, for the gifts, by the way, and Ash and Patty. Duffy is talking to Elon, and Elon, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Basically, according to the New York Times, Duffy basically starts yelling at Elon and saying, your Elon's children, his little Doge children, right, who have been going to all the agencies and firing everybody. Elon's Doge children apparently Duffy said this yesterday at the meeting. Everyone heard him. Elon's little Doge children went and ordered the Secretary of Transportation, not even ordered, they tried to fire the air traffic controllers, Elon's little Doge kids. They themselves fired or ordered fired air traffic controllers. And Duffy said he had to personally intervene to stop Elon's staff from firing air traffic controllers here in America. This is, again, we have a nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the gift. Thank you, Reddy and Missy as well. We have a nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers in America. We have had a series of air traffic accidents in the last couple months, including one horrific one over Washington, D.C., with a military helicopter collided with an American Airlines flight, killed 67 people. Horrific, horrific. And Elon's children ordered that air traffic controllers be fired. And it was only because this one Trump official, and again, I'll give him credit. I mean, I will give Duffy credit for this one. Thank you, Nicola. I never thought I'd be praising a Trump appointee, but if the story's right, Duffy stepped in and said, no, I'm not going to fire air traffic controllers. Are you crazy? Well, Elon then at the meeting, Elon being Elon, turns to Duffy and says, oh, really? If we fired air traffic controllers, then name them. Right? Like Elon, of course, argues like a child. This is why I really wonder about Elon Musk. People saying he's a genius. He's a genius who talks like a child, which makes me think you're not a genius. And Elon goes, the name them. And Duffy goes, I can't name them because you didn't fire them. I stopped you from firing them, so I can't name the ones who were fired, you idiot. Just amazing, absolutely amazing. But again, what is shocking is two parts of the story. One, and thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Marsha, for the gifts. Two parts of the story here. One, that Elon and his staff had ordered U.S. air traffic controllers to be fired when we have a nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers here in America. That's the first thing that's shocking. Second of all, that Elon's staff has the power to fire people. These children, Elon's staff is like age 19 to 25. They're these, I say children because even though they're adults, they have no experience. These people have almost no experience. They're hackers, like Chaz just said. They're basically teen hackers. And they were given the authority to go into federal agencies and just fire people left and right without knowing anything about the agency, without knowing anything about the jobs. They were going to fire air traffic controllers. The final point here, if Elon is telling the truth from that meeting yesterday in the White House with Trump, if Elon wasn't lying, then Elon wasn't even aware that his own little children were running around the agencies firing people. And they were doing it not only without Trump's permission, but without Elon's approval, because Elon claims he didn't even know about it. How freaky is that? But again, firing air traffic controllers when we have had a series of air traffic accidents and we have a nationwide, and we have for years now, had a nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers. Again, the good thing, well, not the good thing. The problem is there's too many stories like this. I mean, this story, maybe you'll hear it again. I mean, it popped up in the New York Times, but it also popped up in the New York Times as part of a much larger, huge story about that meeting at the White House, because there were so many scandalous moments from that meeting at the White House that it's like, you can't even blow up each one. It just boggles my mind. What else we got here? So there wasn't a lot of Trump news. I mean, there's Trump news about Ukraine, but about this. This story is a little weird. So, I mean, this story is still, okay. I'm going to tell you the story and then we're going to sort of walk through it. Trump canceled grants and contracts totaling $400 million to Columbia University in New York due to, quote, the university's inaction in the face of persistent harassment of Jewish students. This story is, it's very smart of Trump. It's possibly unconstitutional, hard to say. It's very smart. Trump is trying to scare, in the law we would say chill, American universities. They threatened Georgetown University yesterday, where I got my law degree, my JD, and they threatened the Georgetown Law Center, the Georgetown Law School, and told them, we understand you're teaching, civil rights law. it's DEI, but DEI is civil rights. I mean, literally, it means civil rights. That you're teaching civil rights law and you support civil rights. And literally, they got a U.S. prosecutor to write Georgetown and say, we are now putting your university under investigation because we were told you support civil rights laws and you teach about civil rights in your classes. Okay. This is part of a larger, again, authoritarian, fascist style program to scare universities with the strong arm of the government. The problem, and this is very smart of Trump, choosing Columbia was very smart. A couple of reasons. One, $400 million, huge amount of money, right? Every university in America is looking at Columbia and going, oh my God, we can't afford to lose $400 million. That was the first very smart thing Trump did. Second smart thing Trump did, he was dumb in going after Georgetown. You don't go after a law school and say, we're upset that you're teaching about civil rights. That's just stupid. And Georgetown is a Jesuit university. It is a private university run by the Catholic Church. Having the government try to strong arm the Catholic Church gets very interesting legally in America, so I'm glad Trump, that was stupid of Trump. This thing, though, is very smart because he didn't go after Columbia based on their freedom of speech. He went after it based on the opposite. He accused them of basically not standing up for the civil rights of their Jewish students. During the Palestinian protest or the Palestinian supporter protest, whatever it was last year, Columbia was the epicenter of a lot of the protests. They shut down campus. They shut down classes. At one point, I believe they took over the quad, the center of campus, and wouldn't let Jewish students pass. And I'm a lawyer, arguably, let me step back here, not even arguably. We have civil rights laws that apply to education institutions in America, federal civil rights laws. It is arguable that the Jewish students had their federal civil rights for education violated by those protests, by some of the protesters. Trump was very smart here because Georgetown, he was stupid, right? Threatening Georgetown and saying, you better change your curriculum because you're teaching civil rights. That's stupid because everyone looks at you and goes, that's just dumb, right? Defending Jewish students, defending freedom of speech, in this case, defending civil rights laws, which is something Trump would never do, obviously. It's a much smarter approach, basically, because even people like me, I look at it and go, I know what Trump is really doing. He's really trying to strong arm universities and actually get universities under government control, which is really scary. But he's doing it in a case where he's got a point. I think he's got a point. Columbia, honestly, Columbia screwed up. I think Columbia did violate the civil rights of their Jewish students. That may or may not mean they should be losing federal money, but they did screw up, and Trump was smart to jump on it because it makes it complicated. Anyway, so that's what's going on with Columbia. But what's scary about it is this is actually, Trump is not defending Jewish students. Trump is doing this in order to get American universities, private universities, under government control. And that is really scary stuff. So anyway, all right. I'm going to switch over to the Ukraine stuff. We can talk a little bit about the Trump stuff if we want. Should we talk a little bit about the Trump stuff first and then switch over to the Ukraine stuff? I mean, Ukraine is Trump too, of course, but the last couple times we've been doing these, I've been sort of taking some of these just to take some questions first or whatever. Well, see if there's any questions or comments, and then we'll switch over to Ukraine. Yeah, Jody said, didn't he just say he's arresting students for protesting at universities? They're claiming Trump either did or claims he's going to arrest. Okay, what he's claiming, and I'm not sure he can do this. He's claiming he's going to arrest foreign students in America who protest against things he doesn't like. So like protesting for Palestinians or something. And if they're not Americans and they're protesting in America, he claims he's going to kick them out of the country. The only problem is he talked about them breaking the law. Okay, illegal. Red just said it there, illegal protests. He was talking about illegal protests. And that's where it gets interesting. I mean, that's where it gets, again, this is Stephen Miller, his aide doing this. That gets much smarter because it's one thing to kick them out because they're protesting. You'd have freedom of speech arguments there. If they break the law, even if it's a misdemeanor, but they're having sit-ins and whatever, right? But illegally trespassing or whatever, then you get into a weird situation because now you've got foreigners here as guests who are breaking American laws. That gets more interesting, In any case, so yeah, he is going after foreign students who are here protesting. I will say this, and maybe this is my, thank you, Sarah. I'm not sure I like the idea of foreigners coming to my country and launching political protests. Whether you're on the left or right, it's a little weird to me. I'm agnostic on it. We'll put it that way. Because again, I know what Trump is really doing, right? We know what Trump is doing is obnoxious, but I'm not sure foreign students here should be participating in protests. I think it's a little weird, personally. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but it would be like me going to Italy and living there for school and protesting against the Italian government. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what my rights would be there. I don't know. Then again, and I don't really know the constitutional issues here. If the Constitution says that everyone gets an equal right to freedom of speech, whether or not they're American or not, then they do have that right. But there is something a little more in my gut that I look at it and go, don't come to my country as a guest and start protesting my government. It's a little weird, but again, that might be my conservative side coming out. I don't know. I can see you guys are sort of maybe a little divided on it. Although a lot of you are actually saying they shouldn't protest, which is interesting. That's interesting. I'm kind of surprised. I thought more of you would go, "You're crazy." No, having said that, it depends what the law says. Right? I don't know constitutional law in regards to this. My suspicion is going to be constitutional law might say, well, forget about the illegal protest. That's different. But a legal protest, you're allowed to do. Right? And I suspect, and if you're allowed to legally protest, then you're allowed to legally protest, even though I think it's probably poor form, but the illegal stuff, forget it. I mean, I'm actually very unsympathetic on the illegal stuff. And what I mean is, I don't care what it is. If you start breaking the law in my country and you're here as a guest, you're gone, as far as I'm concerned. I am not sympathetic on that at all. Because people were trying to say on some of the immigration stuff, like a lot of these guys were, they simply shoplifted or something. Like, if you're visiting my country or you're an immigrant, but you're not American yet, and you're shoplifting, I think it's completely inappropriate. I really do. I mean, I don't frankly agree with Americans shoplifting for starters. I'm not a big thrill of that either. But if you're here as an immigrant, you better be on good behavior. So in any case, and we shouldn't go and shoplift in other countries either, frankly. And if we did, if I started shoplifting in France, I would expect the French to kick me out, frankly. Or I was just in Italy, same thing. I'd be lucky if the Italians kicked me out. They would probably throw me in jail instead. Dave Winkster, I don't know if you're just throwing something out there or if that's a real thing you just wrote about AOC, but maybe clarify. Because I'm not quite sure what that means, what you wrote. And I don't want to really repeat it if it's not a real thing. Annie, hang on. Did I have another thing before you, Annie? I thought I did. Tim, I did see Tim signed up as a Patriot launcher. Thank you, Tim. I see that. I did see that. I was going to thank you for that earlier. Annie is saying, how can Trump think it's a good idea to deport Afghans who helped the U.S. during the war? He knows they'll be killed. This was the news we found out yesterday, that Trump is at least, Trump was planning on, and now he kind of stepped back and went, well, no, I'm considering. But he was planning on kicking out 240,000 Ukrainian refugees, 500,000 refugees, including Venezuelans who were fleeing the Venezuelan regime, Cubans fleeing the horrific Cuban regime, Afghanis, many of which I believe helped our military in Afghanistan. He doesn't care. Yeah, I mean, Anna just said he doesn't care. It's of course it's horrific. I mean, but thank you, Andre, Dave, and others for the gifts, Marcia. I mean, he doesn't care. And I don't think he has a moral compass. Thank you, Zerpachi, for subscribing. He has no moral compass. And I think he has no beliefs to start with, really. So yeah, he doesn't care. All right, I'm pulling up a story here that Dave just posted. Oh, I know this. Yeah, I know this. This is an older story 3 days ago. this is a weird, Dave, I'm not going to get into it because it's a weird story. It's a little bit of a weird story. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure what to do with that story, to be honest. I don't want to get into it. It's too confusing. But yeah, I think that story is a little weirder than it. First, I don't think she's going to do it, but she's talking about if she was intentionally trying to help people who are here illegally. Is she assisting in a crime? It's a weird legally. It kind of, I'm not sure what to make of it. Anyway. Oh, we may have our first little person. Well, I won't block you. I'll just mute you for the show. That's okay. That's okay. Where's my little screamer today? He's hiding on me. Hello. Anyway, all right, let's start dealing with Trump stuff, part 2. So the Ukraine stuff. So that's the Trump stuff to start with. Ukraine. So it is day 1,106 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Next week, the talks begin in Saudi Arabia. The Ukrainians are going, the Americans are going, the Saudis will be there, and we will start, I guess the Ukrainians will start negotiating with the U.S. or something over, the beginnings of the negotiation with the Russians or whatever, but it will start with the Americans next week. The more sort of mayhem from Trump. As you know, Trump has now cut off all U.S. military aid to Ukraine. He has cut off U.S. Intelligence aid to Ukraine, and we now appear to have strong-armed a private commercial satellite company, Maxar, and forced them to cut off all of their product to Ukraine as well, the commercial satellites. He's trying to punish Ukraine. Trump's staffer, or Trump's guy, Kellogg, who's like the most pro-Ukraine guy among the Trump people. But Kellogg, in an interview, he's Trump's guy who Trump appointed to be, well, here's the problem. Trump's, all over the place. Trump appointed Kellogg to be the point person on Ukraine and Russia, and then he appointed 3 other people to be the point people on Ukraine and Russia. So who the hell knows what Kellogg does now? But Kellogg said something to the effect of Trump is putting all of these, he's punishing Ukraine and cutting off all their weapons and cutting off all the intelligence and cutting off all their satellite imagery, which is literally getting Ukrainians killed. He's doing this just like you would take a 2x4, a big board, and hit what did he say? Hit a donkey in the nose to get its attention, is what he said. That the U.S. is doing this to Ukraine in the same way you would take a huge piece of wood and hit a donkey in the nose to get its attention. As if anybody would do that to a donkey. That's sick. I mean, you wouldn't hit an animal with a huge 2x4, right? Who would do that? I mean, I'm saying, like, that's just weird to start with. Second of all, the Ukrainians are not animals. They're not animals who need to be beaten with sticks because they're not smart enough. I mean, this is on so many levels, it's sick what we said. And this is the guy in the Trump administration who's like the best. Thank you, Sarah. Who's the best on the Ukrainian stuff. He's the good guy. I mean, that's what kind of blows my mind. I'm adjusting my camera again for you guys. That's what really blows my mind. Hitting a mule with a 2x4 across the nose. Thank you, Amanda. The quote was, "It's just like hitting a mule with a 2x4 across the nose to get its attention." Again, you're kind of reading again going like, who hits mules with 2x4s? It's no. In any case, what else we got here? Oh yeah, big surprise here. Russia's taking advantage of Trump's embargo on supporting the Ukrainians by launching a huge attack against Ukraine overnight. Again, big surprise. Trump criticized Ukraine again today. Big surprise. He praised Russia and criticized Ukraine. I mean, he then criticized Russia a little bit, but classic Trump. He said he was answering questions about the war. And he said, Russia's bombing the hell out of Ukraine, but I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. He said, Russia has all the cards. It may be easier to deal with Moscow, despite their position. Asked if he believes Putin when Putin says he wants peace, Trump said, yeah, I believe him. So Trump said today that Putin wants peace. Putin's willing to negotiate. Putin's easy to deal with, but the Ukrainians are the difficult people. Well, of course it is. I mean, when you work for Putin, if Putin's the one, doing your paycheck or whatever, of course he's the guy you get along with more easily. I mean, this is surprising, right? I mean, Alger Hiss probably got along better with his Russian handlers, or what's the couple? Whatchamacallit? The couple that gave away our nuclear secrets. They probably got along better with the Soviet handlers than they did with with the FBI, I'm going to guess, right? The Rosenbergs. I mean, just unbelievable, these people. Unbelievable. What else we got here? Trump. Okay, one good thing Trump did say today, which I was shocked. Trump did actually say that he's now considering sanctions against Russia. This was kind of weird, though. He said, I'm strongly, he's such a moron. He's such a child. I'm strongly considering. It's like, okay, whatever. I'm strongly considering. All you have to say is I'm considering. I'm strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions, some other kind of sanctions I missed, and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. Yeah, here's the problem with that. First of all, fat chance Trump is going to put any sanctions on Russia. That's not going to, again, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. You don't sanction your boss. That's not going to happen. Second of all, banking sanctions. What more banking sanctions can we put on? We put all the sanctions we can put on Russia, more or less, at this point. I don't think there are more sanctions. Third, Trump claimed he was going to put tariffs on Russia. What exactly do we like? We don't buy anything. We never bought anything from Russia to start with, let alone now. What, caviar? We don't even import anything. Caviar? Americans don't eat caviar. I mean, there's literally nothing from Russia. I mean, exploding watermelons? I don't know what we'd be importing, right? Vodka? We don't import Russian vodka. The vodka's from everywhere else now, Keps. I mean, maybe a little bit of vodka. Stoli, but Stoli's not even Russian anymore. Stoli isn't Stoli like it's Swedish or Dutch or something? It's not even Russian anymore. No, it was just a Ladas. Exactly. We're going to import really bad Russian cars. Exactly. Thank you, Bowie. I mean, it's good, I guess, that Trump is at least threatening Russia. I mean, it's sort of the first time in years that Trump has said anything even vaguely critical of Russia. So I'm glad to see it. But little Vladimir Putin's going to pick up the phone and go, Donald, you promised. And he's going, okay, Vlad, I'm sorry. And he's not going to do it, right? He's not going to do it. Anyway, again, keep the gifts coming, guys. Remember, I do this for a living, TikTok and YouTube. Please keep the gifts coming, or subscribers as well. I haven't been hitting subscribers as much, but we like subscribers. Subscribers, among other things, get to do the Saturday show with me, which I'm doing tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, US, TikTok, YouTube, Discord, just for the paid subscribers. And remember, Sunday is for the VIP subscribers, so don't forget that. Also TikTok, don't forget to follow me. I always forget to ask you that. Thank you for the hat and mustache, Marie. But please do follow me on TikTok. And if the spirit moves you, hit that little heart me thing that people are already hitting up there. I'm getting my jet lag yawn too. Don't do it. Don't do it. Saturday coffee. Exactly. Michael Clark. Michael Clark's really good. He's a British defense expert who is on Sky News a lot. And he was saying today that Trump keeps using a carrot and stick approach with Russia and Ukraine, but all the carrots. Oh, hello. Oh, Nemo again. Thank you. Who's that with Nemo? Hedge. Thank you, Hedge, for the Nemo. Very cool. And Reddy and T-Bone and Dallas and Dennis and Andre for some gifts as well. But that was especially nice of you, Hedge. Michael Clark says all the carrots are being offered to Russia and all the sticks are being used to beat Ukraine. Every day they beat up Ukraine. In the administration, the Republican backers, they lose no opportunity to insult Zelensky, insult the Ukrainians, and yet Russia is not being asked for anything at the moment. He is correct. The Europeans are looking to see if there's some way they can use the European Union to try to help Ukraine economically after the war, which is kind of nice. This was from the Telegraph. Ursula von der Leyen. What is her job right now? Somebody tell me. Is she like EU president or something? What's her job? I always have your structure always confuses me with the European Union. But she's like a top or European Commission president, maybe? Is she EU president? I thought it was European Commission or something. Like commissioner, exactly. Yeah, EU commissions is what Abdul Hamid is saying the same thing. President of the commission, but is is president of the commission kind of like the EU president, but they're kind of a figurehead? I'm going to guess, or what? Am I right about that? Yeah. Okay. So people are saying yes. That's what I was thinking, because I don't feel like she's got a ton of power, but she seems to be this important figurehead for the Europeans. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So president of the EU Commission. Yes. Okay. She's very good, by the way, on Ukraine stuff. Ursula von der Leyen is ready to push EU rules to the breaking point to give Ukraine privileged access to the European Union's single market as part of a final peace deal. Now, again, since Americans don't really follow the European stuff as much, the European Union is, thank you, who is that? Yohani? Thank you, Yohani, or Yochani, for the gift, for the dragon. European Union is a unified market of, I don't even know how many countries do you guys have now in the EU. I was going to say 27, but it could even be more than that. They've got a lot of countries. I guessed at 27. Is that actually correct? Wow. 33 is NATO, though, more or less. I'm seeing more 27s. Okay. I may have gotten this one right saying 27. That was a good guess. But basically, you've got a number of European countries, France, Germany, Italy, a lot of other ones. Oh, thank you, T-Sten, for the gift. And another Nemo, too. Thank you, guys. Appreciate there was that Big Hawk. Thanks, Big Hawk. Thank you, Colin, too. You've got a number of European countries got together. And remember, the Brits were a part of it and then left. And basically, they created a common market where their countries basically operate like states. So that in terms of commerce and travel, most of them at least, travel, it's as if you're in the same country, and so it's as if France and Italy and Greece and Spain are just different states of the same country, so that they can do business back and forth very easily, right? They can travel back and forth without needing a passport necessarily. Well, I guess maybe you use the passport as your document for proving who you are, but there's no customs, there's no immigration, there's none of that kind of stuff, right? So it's very cool stuff. And what she's saying is she's talking about giving the Ukrainians access to that common market. Thank you, Disco Dave, another Nemo, appreciate that. And thank you, Genghis and Laddie as well for the gifts. She's talking about giving the Ukrainians access to that economic market. Now, mind you, I didn't realize the EU was this big. It's something like 440 million people at this point, which 449 million, actually. 449 million people, that's huge. We're 330 million here in America. I mean, I had no idea the EU was that big. It's a tremendous number. And the idea is giving the Ukrainians access to the market for at least some, maybe not 100%, but giving them some access to the market, including being able to, this I thought was brilliant, being able to sell Ukrainian weapons, because Ukraine has a rather well-developed war machine now, not surprisingly. They developed some very good weapons. And the idea is giving the Ukrainians potentially access to the European market, duty-free or whatever, that they could sell weapons to the European countries. So now Ukraine is able to make money. Europe is able to rearm and, frankly, arm even more, because you've got the Russian threat. You've also got the American threat the Europeans have to deal with now, which is basically not that America is going to attack you unless you're Denmark, then they might attack you, or Greenland, but that the Americans are not going to help you. That you cannot, and this is true, actually, you cannot count on the U.S. government to come to your aid. Currently, America is not your ally, and it is not your friend. It's not. As long as a Republican is president, America is not your friend. Maybe